Power Hour with John Lee.
So here's another con artist, Tania Head. Who's she? She is a woman who rose to prominence in the 9/11 survivors movement. She started going to meetings where people were sharing their stories about 9/11, having been present and survived the attacks, the crime. And she was in the North Tower when the plane hit the building. And the fuel from the plane burnt her arm. Right, so she was right present, and her husband was in the South Tower, and he died in the event. You know, he didn't survive it, and so she starts rising to a certain kind of prominence in this group because her story, you know, involves all the elements. She's helping other people, so she's a hero. But she was helped by someone else, so she's also a victim, she's a survivor, she's everything. She's got everyone else's story wrapped up into a nice little ball because it's bullshit. She wasn't even in America when it happened, much less in New York, and certainly not in the Twin Towers. And she was just lying, right? And who was she really? She was a Spanish girl called Alicia Esteve Head. Head being a mother's surname and Esteve being a father's surname, from a very rich and influential family that was up to its tits in controversy anyway. A brother and a father went to prison. And so she sees what's happening in New York, when she's studying in Barcelona. She gets on a plane after a couple of years of it and goes to New York and infiltrates this survivors network and becomes the president of it. And she did a brilliant job. You know, the survivors were treated terribly. They weren't even allowed to visit the 9/11 site. It's called the Pit. They weren't allowed in. Family members were, but the survivors weren't. And so she changed that, and she got the survivors in, and she donated a lot of money to the network because she was from a rich family. She was lying about her job. And she really did a lot of good things, but she did it for the wrong reasons. And she was selected, right, by the committees, by the powers that be, to give a tour of 9/11, of the 9/11 site to the dignitaries, the mayor and the governor and all that. And she wasn't even fucking there when it happened. It was all a lie. And you can see her walking around, pointing at stuff and really telling her story. Lies from start to finish. And there was a guy called Wells Crowther who was known as Red Bandana Man because he appeared in so many people's stories because he wouldn't leave the building. He was just running around saving people. And so she co-opted that for herself and said, yeah, he saved me as well. He put the flames out on my arm. She was never even there. Oh, yeah, lying to his parents about it. And, I mean, to me, that's just sick. How can you look somebody in the eyes who survived a traumatic event like that and wait for them to finish their story and then say, well, yeah, but whatever happened to me was worse than that. You know, I mean, it's just sick, absolutely sick. And she's a high flyer. She's famous. She's on TV with the rich and famous and the influential, the movers and the shakers in New York. She's the president of this network. And then, bang, New York Times article comes out exposing her as a fraud because they've investigated it. And you know, she tries to deny it at first, but then it's proven that she wasn't even there and she's lying about everything. And so she disappears. And that was several years ago. And apparently nobody knows where she is. Well, you take one look at her and remember that she's got a gammy arm and you tell me she's impossible to find. Bullshit. You can't disappear in this day and age. Especially not if you're an extremely distinctive person who lied about being a victim of 9/11. So I'm not buying that nobody knows where she is. But yeah, she sold recovery. She said, right, even if you're a victim of a terrorist attack, even if your arm is burnt and the skin comes off your arm, whatever, and you're traumatized, it doesn't matter how bad it is, because I've had it worse and I can come back and I can recover and I can become this happy person. It's all bullshit, isn't it? Because you weren't even there. And so she capitalised on people's need to believe that they could recover by saying, look at me, I've recovered, so you can do it. But you're recovering from something that actually happened. I'm recovering from some fucking lies that I made up for attention. So yeah, another predator. And finally, Jimmy Savile. I'm not going to talk about Jimmy too much because he was a paedophile, child rapist. He raped women. He was a necrophiliac, scum of the earth. I got angry talking about Jimmy Savile, but I couldn't not mention him in this context. So he's born in Leeds, becomes a coal miner, gets injured, leaves that, opens some clubs, becomes locally famous. Then he's on television. He's got like top of the pops kind of programs, music programs, this kind of light entertainment. He's on the radio as a DJ, similar kind of thing. He's got discussion programs, debate programs. He's doing quite well in the TV world. But he's a terrible paedophile, and it's now absolutely clear he was abusing girls from the beginning. He was running a paedophile ring. Everybody knew about it. Just ask Johnny Rotten.
Now, it's never been played on television before, but it has a particular relevance. Let's listen to this.
So who else is on the goner list?
Oh, it's endless, believe me. I just want to make a film of it. On film, I'd like to kill Jimmy Savile. I think he's a hypocrite.
Weren't I right?
I bet he's into all kinds of seediness that we all know about, but are not allowed to talk about. I know some rumours. I bet none of this will be allowed out.
I should imagine libelous stuff will be allowed out.
Nothing I said is liable.
Sounds a bit harsh, the death list there.
Well, but actually...
Sometimes you're contentious in life just because you're bored of that
But put aside put aside the rhetoric you were using, the fact that in 1978, at the height of the Sex Pistols explosion, there you are saying about Jimmy Savile, he was into all kinds of seediness that we all knew about. We weren't allowed to talk about it. I know some rumours. So you had heard the kind of thing that we now know about him, or stuff like that?
Yeah. I think most kids did too. Most kids wanted to go to the top of the pops, but we all knew what that cigar muncher was up to. But I'm very, very bitter that the likes of Savile and the rest of them were allowed to continue.
There, in the audio and in the video, you can identify Johnny Rotten saying that Jimmy Savile was a paedophile in 1978, right? And he was never busted for it. Decades went by with this guy beasting people. He had he had the keys to Broadmoor, which is a mental hospital, so you could go in there and abuse the residents. He had the keys to Duncroft School, a school for wayward girls with problems, and he used to take them out in his car and abuse them. He was a prolific beasting paedophile, and who was his best mate? Prince Charles. Right, so hang on. Everybody at the BBC, including Johnny Rotten, who doesn't even work there, who's just doing an interview there, who's a punk singer, everybody in the entertainment industry, at least, knows that Jimmy Savile is a raging paedophile. But MI6, MI5, Secret Service, Scotland Yard, none of these entities know. They're all in the dark, even though he's been interviewed about it by the police. And he's famous. None of these people know. They just let this pedo into Buckingham Palace so he can hang about with Charlie Big Ears. No way. Bullshit. Bullshit. That was known. And he was protected by these people. He was protected by the BBC. He was protected by the intelligence agencies, the police, the royal family. They all protected him. And the BBC actually quashed a documentary about him just after he died. It must have been made, or at least planned while he was still alive. Then he died, and they made this documentary about him, and they quashed it. They binned it. Fucking disgusting. And when they buried him, they gave him a massive fucking grave, like he was some kind of hero. But then the truth came out, and his grave was fucking kicked down. I hope it was sold, and the money went to victims, if not his, then someone else's. And now he's got an unmarked grave. But he should have been caught. He should have been punished in his own lifetime. And all the people who helped him and protected him, they should be up against a wall. Because they facilitated this beast to do what he did. And what did he sell? He sold charity. So apart from doing marathons for children's hospitals, the very people he was actually abusing, the cold, calculated, sick bastard, was pretending to help the people that he was actually abusing. He had a show called Jim Will Fix It, which I used to watch as a kid, where you would send a letter saying, I would really like to meet Mr. T, and Jim will fix it for you to meet Mr. T. So he can actually just bring these kids in and attract kids and all that. Just repugnant human being. And he was selling charity. So